guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Tuesday, September 3rd, and it's 9:13 p.m. Eastern Time. I hope everyone is doing well. The cats were just, as the intro was playing, they were trying to get into my iced coffee, and I was thinking to myself, oh, that's all I need. Cats on coffee. No. Anyway, let's get into the news, the Q-related news, and there's plenty of it. So, but first, I want to thank a few people that have donated since the last time I updated the donations was August 30th. So these are the people that have donated since then. And coffee donations, Dottie T, thank you very much. Bobby G. Now, Bobby's been a long-time listener and also has extremely hilarious comments. And he said, I haven't been commenting because you have so many comments, but go ahead and comment, Bobby, because you're hysterical. Anyway, he's also got his 88-year-old father watching. So, hi, Bobby's father. He didn't tell me your name. Anyway, and we have Alexandra's from Denmark. Now, that surprised me. It would be interesting to have her take on what is going on in Denmark and about the whole Greenland thing. Then we have Sherry C., William, who entered his name as Anon, Lorene K, Gloria J, B. More Frank. That is not her real name, but that is the name that she requested to be called. I'm sure you've seen her comments in the comment section because she is another longtime listener. And another person called They Call Me Alabama. And I got your message. Thank you, and I will look for that. And Julianne, also, she donated through coffee, but also she's a Patreon supporter. So thank you for being a Patreon supporter. And Joanna, and in the mail today, I got something from Mishel N. from Calgary, Alberta. And it was a wonderful, wonderful letter and a donation. And I would love that if you are in Ontario, please, if you're in this area, look me up and we can go for coffee. That sounds wonderful. And I got something very, very interesting from, well, I don't know who it came from, but I know the business it came from, Dazzling Coins. And they are in British Columbia. And I got to show you what they... Well, I had it here. What did I do with it? Here it is. I have to show you this. Very interesting. And I had received, I think last week, a 1-ounce coin. So I'm going to put this together or put this with the other one in my safe and save it for a very rainy day. Anyway, it is 4 troy ounces. I can't see unless I go over here, if you can see this, but this is the front. Yes, so this is from Dazzling Coins. Is it Dazzling Coins? I was looking for a website here. I thought I had the little card with it, but maybe I don't. Anyway, you can look it up. It's Dazzling Coins, and I think it's probably .ca. Could be .com, though. But they have a lot of interesting stuff on there, and their prices are good. So... all right. And also I had a Patreon supporter, a new Patreon supporter, and I'm so sorry because I forgot to grab the name, and so I will mention you in the next video. All right, let's get to the news now. And we have a lot. Now, thank goodness that Hurricane Dorian is petering out, but remember, don't let your guard down, because this hurricane has changed so many times and done completely unpredictable moves, like sitting over Bahamas for that long, virtually stationary, like it was 1 mile an hour. I mean, come on. I mean, anybody could walk faster than that. And this is a hurricane. So yeah, very unpredictable, and I don't trust it, and I don't trust those that might be steering it. And that's not a might be, that is a fact. It's being steered. So yeah, don't let your guard down with this, because it's too dangerous of a storm. If you've seen the pictures that are coming in from Bahamas, I literally wanted to cry. I wanted to cry for these people. I can't imagine. It's one thing losing your home, but then looking like you look out over the island and everything's gone. The trees are gone. Everything's gone. The only thing that's still kind of in a jumbled heap in the water is cars. The buildings are all gone. So I'll show you some of that later. It's unbelievable. It really is. I'm having a hard time with it, and it breaks my heart because there's a growing list of missing people. And probably some of those people were washed out to sea. It's horrific to even think about, but I'm sure over the next few weeks we'll get all sorts of stories, and stories of harrowing survival and also bravery and rescuing others. I know one woman had taken in, I don't know, it was like 70 or 80 dogs, may even have been more than that. But she took these dogs in because they didn't have anywhere to go. And as far as I know, they survived. But she said, I don't even care about them, defecating on the floor and peeing. I just want to save them. So I think she had most of them loaded into her bedroom. So, and they rode out the storm there. And I do believe that, that they were okay, but I don't know that for a fact. Anyway, let's get into this. Okay. Now, I wanted to show you this because this is exactly, is it going to go for me or not? Come on. Stubborn. All right. Now, this is from 2017, okay? But it's pertinent. It's pertinent to what we're covering here. China builds port in Bahamas, provides military assistance and equipment 180 miles off U.S. coast. Now, this is from Big League Politics, and it was October 31st. I hate that date, but October 31st, 2017. I don't understand why we celebrate death on Halloween, but there you have it. Now, China built a port on a remote island of the Bahamas, 180 miles off the U.S. coast, prompting suspicion from locals who are concerned about China's potential military ambitions in the area. The port is currently empty, unused, and surrounded by barbed wire. During the construction of the port, a top official with the Bahamas, then ruling Progressive Party, vowed that China will actively provide military assistance to the Bahamas and defense dialogue. Big League Politics has learned from the Bahamian sources that residents are afraid to talk about the new Chinese installation in Cooperstown, which has a population of 676 on the island of Abaco. Now, what island was just hit and decimated? I mean, well, we'll see some of the pictures. It's just not there. It's gone. It's decimated. I don't know how anybody survived that, to tell you the truth. But anyway, this is the island of Abaco, and that is, if I'm not mistaken, the same place where that big port is. I know it's called Marsh Harbor, but I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that it is on the island of Abaco, very small island. So the 45-acre port was built by the Chinese Harbor Engineering Company and is financed by the EXIM, Bank of China, and the Bahamian government. The port is closed and the road around it is too small for even construction trucks to drive on. Locals speculate that the port will be used for submarines. Excuse me, just let me take a drink so I can hopefully not cough. I have all this stuff for cough, and I should bring it with me when I record so I can take something, but all right. So, locals speculate that the port will be used for submarines. So there is no reason at all for the port, one local resident told Big League Politics. The Chinese have been investing heavily and nobody seems to know why. Don't think they'll be investing too heavily now, seeing as, not all of the Bahamas, but a good portion, excuse me, is decimated. Now, I think so in the future. It looks like it's going to end up being for military supplies, the resident said, or human trafficking. Not many people are aware of it. Some of the locals work there, but the port is closed, so they laid them all off. The Chinese just stay in the ports. They don't walk around. They go exercising early in the morning on the road or late in the evening. They don't socialize with anybody. This is so annoying. I have not coughed once all day. And as soon as I start recording, if you can stick with me for a few minutes, if it gets too bad, I'm going to stop this and re-record. But if you could stick with me for a minute or two and see if I can calm this down. Okay. So people haven't been asking about it because they know what happens, the resident said. Our government is filled with corruption. They come looking for you. They beat your ass. They torch you until they get what they want out of you. They have no proper interrogation methods. Before the Chinese, leave, they leave like $800,000 for the community. They've been doing that all over the Caribbean. They leave parks and things like that. In Jamaica, they have invested in roads, water, and sewer. So this is interesting, and it kind of gives us an answer as to why would somebody target the island of Abaco, which is part of the Bahamas. Why would somebody do that? Well, now we know, because it's not just this huge port there that, this shipping company, Maersk, is there, and who knows what kind of activity is going on there. Okay, well, I think we do know in part what kind of activity is going on there. But the last thing we need is the Chinese military that close to the United States. So let's go back here. And I want to show you something. This came from NPR, so I would assume that it's fairly accurate. Now, this is Now, one of the islands, I think this is Abaco. If I'm not mistaken, I think this is Abaco. Now, this is it before, all right? And you can see all this, you can see the houses and so forth and everything built up. And this looks like a harbor of some sort. That could be Marsh Harbor. I'm not sure. Anyway, this is it now. So when we say decimated, like these are the lines. See this right here? This is over here, like way underwater now. Like half of the island is gone. So yeah, like when we say decimated, we mean decimated. Now, if there was people in these houses taking shelter, where are they? None of those houses survived. So I don't know. Let's come down here, and I want to take you to this. This is from the Washington Post. Now, this is the aerial footage. Shows total devastation in the Bahamas after Hurricane Dorian. Now, let me see if no, I can't. I'm trying to see if I can make it bigger for you guys so that you can see it. Here we go. There we go. Now, let's, this is, now look at all these shipping containers just strewn everywhere. And look at all these houses. They're just they're like matchboxes. They were it was no contest for Dorian. I mean, these were just like little matchbox houses. And I'm sure we may think of the Bahamas as backwards or whatever. No, there are $1 million homes there. Beautiful, beautiful palatial homes there. It's not just poor people in Bahamas. Sure, there's a mix, but there's a lot of palatial type homes there. So let's look at this. There's nothing left. I mean, seriously. Like, a lot of those houses have been blown right off their foundations. And could you imagine if, could you imagine if your house is in here somewhere? You'd never be able to, I mean, look at the water is all through here. It's I know this takes a while to go through it. It's about 3 minutes, but it's worth seeing if you haven't. Now, some of these homes are spared. Not very many. And none of them are without damage. Now, this was taken today. This footage was taken today. Every little bit you see a house that's, well, it's still standing, but do you think it's ever going to be livable again? No. Now, they say 5 people have died. Now, looking at this, we can see that there's absolutely, positively no way. It looks like an EF4 tornado touchdown. Is there such a thing as an EF5? I'm not even sure. Somebody that knows can put it in the comments. It looks like the strongest of tornadoes has gone through, to me. And again, I don't want to belabor this, but I do want everybody to know what they are facing and what this storm did to them. Unbelievable. See, you can see all the roads, but the houses are gone. Now, I'm not sure where this is. It looks, oh no, there's devastation there too. So, I know those are cars, but and look at what it did to a brick building. That's a brick building. How strong do the winds have to be to rip apart a brick building? So that's it for that. I did want to show you that because really I think the footage is alarming if you haven't seen it. And let me see here. Well, that's okay. Hang on. Let's go back here and hit on this. Okay, Hurricane Dorian apocalyptic aerial footage from Bahamas shows widespread destruction. Now, this is different footage, and let's just take a look at this. Now, let's come down here. It says aerial footage recorded by pilots surveying parts of the Bahamas pounded by Hurricane Dorian in the last 48 hours shows widespread destruction. Hurricane Dorian came to a catastrophic day-long halt over the northwest Bahamas, flooding the islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama with walls of water that lapped into the second floors of buildings, trapped people in attics, and drowned the Grand Bahama airport under 6 feet of water. Yes, the airport's gone. It's under 6 feet of water. At least 5 people died and 21 injured people were airlifted to the capital by the U.S. Coast Guard. Bahamas officials said footage obtained by AccuWeather and Live Storms Media show the deadly storm destroyed buildings on the Abaco Island of the Grand Bahama. Now, let's take a look at this. And this is similar in nature to the other one that we saw. Aerial video gives us first glimpse of the Abaco Islands practically parking over the Bahamas for a day and a half. And that's not normal. That is not normal by any stretch of the imagination. So let me just see what this one is.
Big flag is gone, Jesus.
Runway is under about 3 feet of water. I can make out all the runway markings.
Abaco Air is gone.
Abaco Air is gone. Airport.
Turkey's gone. Underwater.
Fire station is gone.
Fire station gone.
Fire station gone. Jesus. Gone.
Yeah, we'll be back around.
All right, good.
And I probably some of this debris is going to end up washing up against, I'm not sure how the tides work there, but it wouldn't surprise me if some of this debris ended up, on the shores of the U.S. because there's a lot of debris in that water. You think about how much got washed away, and there's going to be dead animals, all sorts of things, probably dead people. I hope not, but I don't see how that could be avoided in this. I don't know how anybody could survive that, except for the grace of God. I mean, really, can you imagine being in one of those houses just being ripped apart? And what do? The water's pouring in on you, and it's not like you can just swim, and, the water is raging. I feel absolutely heartsick for these people. Aerial footage shows the devastating impact of Hurricane Dorian on the Bahamas, where the storm wreaked havoc for nearly 2 days. And this is another one. It's kind of blurry, but again, you see the utter devastation. It's gone. Look, there's no trees left. And some of the houses are still sort of standing, but they'd be all full of water. And also, there's none of them that aren't damaged. It's unbelievable. So, whoops, let me see. And the storm's punishing winds and muddy brown floodwaters destroyed or severely damaged thousands of homes, crippled hospitals, and trapped people in attics. Now, when it says crippled hospitals, I heard that the hospital is not functioning at all. It's not serviceable. So I don't know where they're taking the people, maybe to a different island. I'm not sure, but I don't know. I know on Twitter, there are people looking for their loved ones, and that just crushed me because some of them are just beautiful families, and they don't know where they are. And I don't know. This really gets to me. It's total devastation. It's decimated, apocalyptic. It looks like a bomb went off, she said. It's not rebuilding something that was there. We have to start again. That's true. Their infrastructure is probably wiped out. Everything's flooded. None of those homes will be able to be lived in. None of them. Even those ones that look like they're partially standing. I know that from Katrina, because houses that survived that, it had to be because there's water in there, mud and, probably whatever's in that water. And somebody said that there were sharks swimming in somebody's house. I mean, I don't know. I guess there would be sharks in the water. Meanwhile, rescue crews are struggling to save those left stranded by Dorian and are urging people to stay put until conditions become less dangerous. We want to go out there, but that's not a risk we're capable of taking, Bahamas National Emergency Management Agency official Tammy Mitchell said in an interview with ZNS Bahamas. It's Z in Canada, it's Z in America, and I sometimes forget that. We don't want people thinking we've forgotten them. We knew what your conditions are. We know if you're stuck in an attic, practically parking over a portion of the Bahamas for a day and a half. Dorian pounded the northern islands of Abaco and Grand Bahamas with winds up to 185 miles per hour and torrential rain before finally moving into open waters Tuesday on a course for Florida. Its winds were down to a still dangerous 110 miles per hour. And you see, the thing is, okay, let's say you survived it, but the storm is still parked over you. And so you don't have any water to drink. All your food has been destroyed. What do you do? All right. Now, it says over 2 million people along the coast in Florida, Georgia, and North and South Carolina were warned to evacuate. While the threat of a direct hit on Florida had all but evaporated, Dorian was expected to pass dangerously close to Georgia and South Carolina and perhaps strike North Carolina on Thursday or Friday. In a press conference Tuesday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis warned residents to be prepared as Dorian inches toward the Sunshine State at a snail's pace. This is going to be riding Florida's coast for the next day and a half, DeSantis said. We just ask people to stay safe, remain vigilant. There will be some effects in the state of Florida. There'll be storm surge. There'll be some flooding. You may see wind damage depending on how close this gets. But at the end of the day, being safe is the most important. I know it's been frustrating for a lot of folks, for Floridians, to look and see, is it going to come in my direction? Is it going to come in another? The governor added, there were times throughout this process when, okay, that doesn't make sense. There were times throughout this process where if there were credible paths that took this thing to the west coast of Florida, to northwest Florida, I'm not sure what they're trying to say there. But anyway, I think we get the gist. So let's move on now because I have taken a lot of time on that, but it is worth taking the time on. Now, as far as, I found this interesting. I found this on Twitter and I clipped it out. As a former commercial and military pilot, I can assure you without hesitation or doubt that chemtrails are very, very real. The documentation for them is no secret, and it does not take more than about 10 minutes of your time to verify with official documents and announcements that the U.S. Air Force and companies like Atlas, formerly, remember we talked about GREEN Aviation. Remember we talked about that. Now, this is a typo. They put every green and it's not called that. It's called EVER green. So that the U.S. Air Force and companies like Atlas, formerly e.g. Aviation, a known CIA asset, are spraying chemicals in the air to modify the weather and possibly for other non-stated reasons. And this is a direct quote from Army pilot CW2 Ann K. West, graduated top of class, flew CH-47D out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 1985 to 1990. So, I mean, she's even willing to put all her information there. So I think we could probably bank on that. Now, let's look at this. because this is another thing that does not make sense to me at all. The Santa Cruz boat fire. It gets more and more curious as time goes on. So I came to this thread because he does a wonderful job. Sun Q, I'm not sure how he pronounces his name. But anyway, here are the facts about the Santa Cruz boat fire. 1, 33, and remember I mentioned that? 33, that number stuck out to me right away. Yes, 33. Think Scottish Rite Freemasonry, 33 degrees. Passengers on boat for 3-day Channel Islands drive excursion. Boat catches fire at 3 a.m., which is well known in the occult. That is the witching hour, they call it. The period of peak supernatural activity. That's why, if you think about it, there are so many songs written about it's always 3 in the morning. If you ever notice it, all the songs always, and then you never hear a song like it's 2 in the morning and whatever. It's never, it's always 3. Every song. Check it out. It's true. All right. 20 bodies have been recovered, and this is from CNN Breaking News. 20 bodies have been recovered after Monday's fatal boat fire near California's Santa Cruz Island. Authorities say as many as 14 people are still missing. Now, and would you believe it if I told you that they were locked down in the lower part of the boat? That's why they didn't get out. It's not that they couldn't swim. They were going on a dive. So they could swim. They could probably all swim very, very well, if that's indeed what they were doing, is going on a dive, and that is yet to be determined. But why would there be any need whatsoever to lock people in the bottom of a boat? Ever. I can't think of any legitimate reason. Anyway, 33 passengers believed to be dead when they were sleeping in hull of the boat and could not get out through the hatch. And you know why they couldn't get out through the hatch in the hull? Because it was locked. It was locked. Like, that's a nightmare. I mean, I'm a very good swimmer and I love boating. I love it. Invite me on a boat any day, I'll go because I love it. But would I go down into the hull of a boat and agree to be locked in? Not on your life. Anything could happen. Anyway, 5 of the 6 crew members, including the captain, were the only survivors. And you know why? Because they were on the top deck. So they made sure that they could get out. Didn't they think, gee, maybe I should unlock the door so that others might possibly have a chance? No, didn't occur to them. The cost of the 3-day excursion was $665 per person because it'd be too obvious if they charged $666. Yes, it would. 5 of 6 crew members were on deck when the fire broke out, and yet none attempted to help free the passengers. The fire continued to reignite when U.S. Coast Guard kept putting it out. So what's that about? The U.S. Coast Guard is there. They're trying to put out the fire, but it keeps reigniting. I guess they had to make sure they were really dead. Whoever they were. Now, so passenger list not released yet, so we don't know who was killed. Why would they not release the passenger list? Unless possibly all the families aren't notified. That's a possibility. But I don't know. All right. Undoubtedly, this has the makings of a cabal occultic hit job, probably targeting 1 or 2 passengers or 1 crew member. Collateral damage doesn't bother the cabal. Luciferians, they need a sacrifice to Moloch. That's the truth. these monsters must be removed from existence. And that's true. I mean, they'll down a whole plane just to get to one person. So if you're traveling on an airline and you happen to be on the airline with someone that you know for a fact knows Hillary, get off. Really, I don't want to be around anybody that knows the Clintons. Nobody. Okay. And here's a link to the Daily Beast article spelling out more details about the boat fire and number of passengers and crew. Well, we're not going to hit on that because I think we have enough information here. And in reply to that, this by Spooktacular, saying ritual sacrifice in plain sight, it's a favorite, disguise it as tragedy, one last thing, they aren't afraid to take out a jetliner or two. And this person, Moni Q, amazing thread, the Democrats warned of a hot August. No, it wasn't the Democrats that warned of a hot August. It was, who was it? It was Trump, wasn't it? Or was it Q? See, I can't even remember now the last time that Q posted because it feels like it's been so long. Anyway, the article you shared says 20 bodies and 14 still missing. That is 34, not 33. What am I missing? Well, I think there were 33 passengers. There was 5 crew members or 6 crew members and 1 crew member died. So maybe that's what they're talking about. I don't know. And yeah. So I think that's all the pertinent information we can glean from that, but I'm going to stay on this and keep checking this out on any news or any whatever, because this there's something to this. There's something, it just doesn't make sense by any stretch of the imagination. And the boat that rescued them was called the Great Escape. Really? And their boat was called Conception. Interesting. All right. Well, let's go back now, just because we can. And let me see what else I want to get to here. All right. There's so much. Okay, well, why don't I just take it in order? Because I'm going to be doing another video tonight because I can't get to it all in one. So let's look at this. I've meant to bring this to you for a bit, and well, September 1st it was written. So it's been 2 days. I guess it feels like it's been longer. Amazing read. Nigerian scammer networks are widespread, extremely costly, and operate domestically in the U.S. Now, I knew about this, and it is a massive, massive problem, more than you realize. You've probably, without even knowing it, been targeted by a Nigerian scammer at one time or another. You may or may not have fallen for it, but a lot of the phone scams, that's who it is. Nigerian scammer networks are a widespread phenomenon in the U.S. that affects thousands of victims with billions of dollars in losses. Surprisingly, the Nigerian and Ghanaian scammer networks operate domestically in the U.S. The Nigerian scammer networks are a major contributor to financial and violent crime in the U.S. Law enforcement is mostly ineffective in solving this problem, and it requires legislative and intelligence agency solutions like the creation of an international scammer database. These scams require payment industries and money transfer reforms. In addition, rampant immigration fraud is related to the Somali, Nigerians, and Ghanaians in the U.S. Military romantic scams, the theory and practice. Since 2015, military romantic scams have become a billion-dollar industry in the U.S. alone. The life cycle of this scam is well documented and understood, but little is known about their operations, networks, organizational structure, payment collection, and their relationship with their domestic financial institutions, law enforcement, and politicians. The public's perception of cyber scammers is that of modern-day pirates, an amorous buccaneer entity shrouded in mystery that operates from somewhere overseas with what appears to be complete impunity from prosecution and justice. Two victims of military romance scams, Kate Roberts and Esther Ortiz Radig, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, Radigro, I think. The impact of military romantic scams on the victims, who are typically older women living on a fixed income, is devastating. Some end up going into debt to pay the scammers. Others lose their entire life savings. To add insult to injury, many of the victims continued to be blackmailed long after they discover that they have been defrauded. This can happen even if they try to terminate their communications with the scammer. Due to the international nature of these scams and the social stigma they carry, most victims have no legal recourse nor chance of ever recovering their losses. Now, this happens so many times to people, and you know what? It is so underreported because the people that get taken are embarrassed, because what these guys do is they pretend like they're interested in you romantically. They peruse all of the dating sites and so forth, and then they'll contact you and they'll say, well, I'm over here on business, but I'm coming back soon to the US. Or they have a whole plethora of excuses and things that they use, but that's a popular one. Well, my business has me in over here and I'm here on business, but I'm going to come back and you know, then we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll have a wonderful life together and blah, blah, blah. And it goes on. A lot of times they send the woman flowers or something so that they think, oh, this is a real person. They sent me flowers. And because the way they're thinking is, okay, I'll invest in the flowers, but I'm going to get more from her in the future. Then after they've established that trust and they've sent them a gift or something like that, they start saying things like, well, I had my passport stolen and this happened and I need this money or I can't get out of the country. So the you know, and if you just help me with this money now, then I'll give it back to you and more. And so the woman thinks, well, I know this person now and they've sent me flowers and, you know, they've talked to me on the phone and whatever. So they send a money order or whatever, like Western Union, however they're going to send it, they send it. And do you think this person stops there? No. Oh, I've been in a car accident and I'm in the hospital and I can't pay my hospital bills. And you know what? They can sound so realistic. And I know if you look on YouTube, there is some Dr. Phil episodes that, you know, and the woman will declare up, hell, and down, nope, he's a real person, nope, and no. They are a real person, but they're a scammer. They're, what do they call that? Catfishing. But that's what these Nigerian networks are really good at. And a lot of times, too, they'll pose like they're an American or a military man, because, you know, women have this innate trust, I think, of the military, and they think, oh, a military man, he's going to be disciplined, he's going to have a paycheck, a regular paycheck, he's going to be, you know, courteous, he's going to, you know, whatever they think. So that's happening all the time, and it's alarming, but you won't hear about it a lot from, it could have happened to your friends, but you won't know because they're too embarrassed. At its bare bones, the military romance scam has several variants, all of which revolve around repurposing images of some servicemen or women and using them to create a fake profile on a social media or a dating site, then reaching out to a victim and defrauding them. As can be seen from the image below, a single set of stolen images can become a source of dozens of fake identities and over 900 concurrently running scams. The 49 personalities of Richard Cannon and 12 other stolen identities used in concurrent romantic scams. Once the fake online profile is created, the scammer will then pursue certain victim demographics and concentrate their effort on a previously proven cross-section of susceptible individuals. For example, a divorced or widowed woman over 50. After the initial contact is established with a victim, the scammer will then engage in a trust-building campaign that can take weeks or months. As part of this process, the scammers will transmit to the victim a wide range of collateral that can be used that can include a fake military ID, service photographs, additional social network images, and even address and property information about their fake residence. The emails, text messages, and step-by-step logic used in these exploits are all based on hundreds of previously tested and successful scams. This makes their decision trees robust and the playbooks plausible and effective. Also, because the operator doesn't have to waste any time on trial and error approaches, improvisation, or real-time content creation, they can effectively run dozens of concurrent scams by just picking up some template-based material such as handwritten love letters and minimally customize them to a specific victim. Now, that's something that I saw on Dr. Phil, because he took these letters that this man had supposedly written to this woman, and she denied up, hill, and down. No, I'm not being scammed. No, I'm not. And he showed her online where there was exact copies of the letter that she got sent. So, an example of the template-based collateral ready for customization. See here, he's showing this. So you can put anything you want in his hands and customize it. Any compromising information, such as sexually explicit images, family, legal, or medical information the victim shares about themselves, will be used subsequently by the scammer to continue to exercise leverage on the victim through blackmail. Regardless of what the specific instance details, all scams are formulaic and follow a predefined life cycle. Every successful romantic scam has 5 sequential phases. Establish an online profile and make contact with a vulnerable victim. Develop a trust relationship with the victim by exploiting some of their weakness. Isolate them and groom them. Learn as much as possible about the victim's family, background, desires, and assets. Gain access to the victim's money or resources. Use the victim as a money mole or contraband mover to support other scams. That happens a lot too. The ultimate goal of the Applebaum's research wasn't to locate specific individuals, but rather to discover the patterns of life of the land in this mysterious kingdom of scamland. He had no interest in the individuals identified, but thought that the information and analytics framework he used would be useful in educating the general public and Western law enforcement agencies in trying to develop automated and effective real-time scam fighting strategies and programs. Applebaum used the same artificial intelligence technology on another project titled Mechanics of Deception, which examined the sources of the Steele dossier. Interesting. He started training the machine learning engine to detect known scammer characteristics such as certain car makes, fashion brands, accessories, and hand signs. The training of the model included the extraction of known objects as well as seeding the engine with new insight matches that were confirmed to be related to some relevant search topics. So, for example, the results from a search of a person wearing a Gucci belt buckle yields new insight that these individuals also carried certain patterned style bags. So moving forward, new searches incorporate the patterned bag into the query criteria. And see how this guy has incorporated this onto a t-shirt and through Photoshop so that he looks like he's wealthier and will hook somebody maybe easier because there are women, that's their criteria. I want a man that's really successfully financially. I don't know how they think that money is going to love them, but they do. A sample of graphic objects used to train the, okay, we don't need to know all that. Not really. So anyway, And then the usage of face recognition to identify an individual in a large collection of images and reconstruct their social and professional network featured in the image is Play Bowie and his KVN. Okay, whatever. This is going into way too much detail. We don't need all this detail, but please know that they are out there. They are prolific in their different types of scams, but the romantic scam is huge, and I have heard of so many women that have fallen for it because, you know, and the thing is too, like when you're looking for someone, like, you know, desperately looking for someone, it's like you're willing almost to make that person into what you want them to be, and they're wanting to make themselves into what you're wanting. So yeah, it's something that it would be interesting to know how much actually leaves the country. It's happening in Canada too. Leaves Canada, leaves America. It'd be interesting to know how much is really going overseas through scams. I bet a ton. All right, all right, so let's go on here. I'm going to stop shortly because I am going to be doing another video, I do believe. So let's see if I can. Okay, now this I'm going to hit on. This is going to be the last one for this video. Soros-funded St. Louis circuit attorney Kim Gardner refuses to charge killer of 7-year-old child despite suspect's confession. Yeah, you heard that right. I had a hard time with this too. And this is from today. Far-left billionaire George Soros has been systematically targeting district attorney races throughout the United States. Several of his candidates have already won. His goal is to create havoc in communities. Please tell me, how can one man be so wicked? How? I just don't understand. He wants to create havoc. It blows my mind. It really does, because I cannot fathom somebody whose heart is that black. It's unbelievable. In St. Louis City, far-left lunatic Kim Gardner took money from Soros in her race for St. Louis circuit attorney. Soros-funded PAC even released an ad in support of this far-left and unqualified nutcase. Well, let's listen.
As a veteran prosecutor, licensed nurse, and state representative, Kim Gardner has the experience St. Louis City needs as our next circuit attorney.
No, she doesn't.
Kim's plan: partner with mental health services to find alternatives to prison for nonviolent offenders, increase public accountability, crack down on gang violence.
I'm Kim Gardner. Together, we can make St. Louis safe by being smart and tough on crime, by reforming a broken system.
Kim Gardner for circuit attorney.
Yeah, well, that's, I guess, Soros paid for that ad. And yeah, apparently she was not qualified. And Kim Gardner won her election and is wreaking havoc on the city of St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office. She looks like a winner. Kim Gardner is so intolerable that 24 attorneys and more than 1/3 of the trial lawyers left the office when she was hired. Wow. 24 attorneys and 1/3 of the trial lawyers left the office when she was hired. And this is a Democrat-dominated office. So not even the Democrats can stand her. In early January, St. Louis police arrested a drug dealer in possession of over 1,000 highly addictive opiate pills and more than $30,000 in cash. The St. Louis police officers got a confession from their suspect. But when investigators brought their evidence to Gardner's circuit attorney's office in downtown St. Louis, the attorneys refused to press charges against the dealer and handed the police report back to the officers. The entire event was captured on video. Gardner refused to charge the drug kingpin because the detectives involved were on her police exclusion list. Kim Gardner created a list of originally 28 police officers, but now the list is over 50 police officers who she will not accept their work because she claims they are racist. Oh my gosh. So she gets to just ignore 50 police officers because she thinks they're racist. Doesn't matter if they catch somebody and they confess, she won't prosecute them. Last week, a suspect was arrested in the fatal shooting of 7-year-old Xavier Usanga in North St. Louis last Monday evening. According to KSDK, Usanga was shot and killed while playing outside of his Hyde Park home Monday, according to St. Louis Metro Police Chief John Hayden. An 18-year-old man standing nearby was injured in the backyard of the Usanga's home in the 3500 block of North 14th Street just after 5 p.m. Monday evening. Excuse me. The suspect confessed to the shooting that killed 7-year-old Usanga. But when they brought this confession and evidence to the St. Louis City's Circuit Attorney's Office, Kim Gardner threw it out. Gardner said based on current evidence, she was not able to determine who was responsible for the child's death. Okay, this guy just confessed. He's saying, I'm responsible. I killed this child. And she's saying, I can't really determine who killed the child. Again, the suspect confessed to the crime, but that was not enough for this radical lunatic in the circuit attorney's office. Wow. Seriously. So that's what you get when you get Soros funding any of our elections at all. I mean, I think he's responsible for Ilhan, Rashida, and AOC. I really do. He's helping them. He's got to be. So, yeah, and he also funded this Kim Gardner. Well, I will have to say that I'm glad that I don't live in St. Louis because that is intolerable. I can't believe that people aren't rioting in the streets. Seriously. Not that I am promoting that. I'm just saying. It's extremely upsetting, especially if you're that child's parent. And you have somebody that's confessed and they say, no, we're going to let this guy off. We don't care about your kid. That's what they're saying. So anyway, I'm going to stop there for tonight and I'm going to come back. I'm going to rest my voice for a few minutes while this uploads and then I'll be back. Just like a bad smell. No. Anyway, you guys stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. And you have a wonderful evening. And if you can come back and join me later, then do so. If not, leave it till tomorrow. Good night.